What's up, guys? My name's Noah. I make music as Haterade, and this is the Ableton Essentials Guide. So, this is a video course for some of you guys who are maybe just getting into Ableton, you're just starting out, or maybe you're looking to learn how Ableton works before you purchase it. Whichever situation you're in, this will help you get started. So, what you're looking at right here is Ableton Live 10. This is the Suite version, and I'm gonna go through those in a second. But you can see the classic light gray color here. This is the default skin. We can get into a little bit later on how you can customize this, but this is generally when you open a new project in Ableton, you just download it. This is what it will look like. So let's get into the different versions of Ableton Live. So we look over here. We have three versions. We have Intro, Standard, and Suite. Now, Suite is the full version. This is the most complete version. I mean, you can tell by the price. These are they come with three different levels of complexity, and they add a bunch of different features. You can see right down here, it's all laid out for you. I would recommend getting Suite over all of these guys because just because of the amount of things that it gives you, and you don't want to be left without certain features if you need them, especially maybe you're working with someone else who has Ableton and they're using certain plugins that are in Ableton that you don't have because you're using Standard or Intro. I mean, Intro doesn't even give you the full spectrum of tracks. It gives you only 16. Which, if you've made music before at all, you know, like that's just not enough to make a whole song. Standard's it's significantly more improved than Intro. There's a lot more to it, but it's still missing some stuff that Suite offers you. So if Standard's okay, you can get by with Standard, but at the end of the day, I'd recommend Suite. So let's jump back over here. Let's take a look over here at the sidebar. So we have up top here, we have our collections, which is a new feature of Ableton 10 where you can store favorite plugins, presets, samples, anything that you want. You can just click on it, and that menu will be there with all of your favorite devices or audio clips. So this is really helpful. This is a brand new function. Like I said, this is one of my favorite functions. Right over here, we have our categories. This is where we have all of our, where we could find all of our plugins, our audio effects, MIDI effects, instruments, everything you need to create sound is right here. And then right down here, we have places. And this is where our user library is, our packs that we download from the Ableton Live website. You could see when we were looking over here, it gives you a bunch of different sounds. You get 70 gigs worth of sounds with Suites, and you can download those all from right here in the packs folder. And that's a new function of Ableton Live too. You won't you can now download straight from the DAW. So you could just click right here, and my Wi-Fi is off, so you won't be able to see. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so right here, these are all different packs that we can grab from the Ableton website. As long as you're connected to the internet, you can download these. And then our user library, this is where we keep all of our this is where I have a couple of different chains and other tools that I've made. And right here, we have clips, grooves, presets. I mean, this is just your personal user library. And down here is the rest are just custom folders that I have added over time. Like my samples folder, my hard drive, and I access to my desktop and my splice folder and stuff. So that's this sidebar right here. This is our obviously whatever you click will pop up right here. You can make this small or big, or if you want to try to read everything in there. So that's good to know. Right down here, this is where we will see audio clips or our instruments if we're working with those. If we put an audio clip, let's put in a cymbal. Drop in a cymbal right here, and when we click on it, double click on it, it'll pop up right here, and we can edit it and adjust it that way. And the same will go with a MIDI clip too. If we'll get into MIDI in a minute, but the MIDI information is what we use to trigger software synthesizers or maybe samplers. We can trigger that audio to play at a certain pitch in a certain time. And we do that in the MIDI arrangement view. So let's make a new MIDI track here. I can demonstrate that for you guys. And we'll make a new MIDI clip. Making a new MIDI clip is Shift Command M, or right click, highlight a space, right click, and then go to Insert MIDI Clip. Both ways work. So we can come in here and draw in MIDI information right in here. And we won't get into it. There's not even a synth on here, but that's the extent of this this bar right here. And if we collapse it, which we just click back here, this is where our plugins are. So this is where our synth, and then I have some other default plugins whenever I create a new MIDI track, and these are all accessible right down here. So I'll delete that MIDI track here. Right here's our info box. This is where anything that you roll over, you can roll over like something over here that it'll tell you what it is. If you notice, keep your eye down here. I'm going to roll over the solo button, and it will give you a brief synopsis of what the solo button is and how it works, or any button for that matter. So, and then right over here we have our ins and outs. So you can see this is an audio track, so I can route in different audio from different sources, and also record other tracks in my session to this audio track. So there's a bunch of functions for that, and that's this in and out button right here. Right here, the returns button. We don't have any returns, so I'll just create one right here. And these are our sends, or where we can take audio from one channel and then route it down through this channel, so we can dual process it or parallel process it. And that is the R button right here. The M button, this is our mixer controls right here. So our gain, panning, sends, solo, record arm, and right down here, the last one, the delays. This is where we can delay our signal by a certain amount of milliseconds or samples if we click that button right there. So that is the arrangement view. This is, and we'll get into what we call the session view. By hitting tab, you can flip back and forth from the arrangement view to the session view. This is where you can put in clips up here and trigger the clips with maybe a push or some other type of MIDI controller, or you could basically arrange your whole song just from session view. We're not going to get into how to do that in this course, but there are other courses that will teach you how to do that. I don't know a lot of producers that work this way. Most of the producers I know work pretty exclusively in arrangement view, but session view is useful as well. This is more of a traditional mixer or a console, if you will, type view. This is a like when you go into a studio and you see a console with a bunch of channels, it would look something like this, where all the levels jumping around and looking really professional and everything. This is kind of like the equivalent to that. So and I created all these MIDI tracks. We don't need those, or those audio tracks, excuse me. And I mean, you have essentially all the same controls that you have in arrangement view. They're just arranged in a different way, and you have the ability to clip launch. That's the difference. So right up here we have the set locator button. This is a way to set like certain points in your track. You can select it and press Command R to rename. So we can put maybe like this is where our drop goes, and we put one right over here, and we say this is where our I don't know, build up, whatever, goes. And we can jump those locators by using these arrow keys right here, or jump to the very beginning. This is our automation button. You can turn that on by also pressing A. That's a new function of Ableton. Very handy. This is our lock envelopes button. So this will lock the envelopes in place rather than copying them as you move clips around, but that's a little bit more advanced. We'll get into that in another class. And lastly, we'll come up here and look at the top bar. This has the link button has to do with linking external devices. We're not going to get too much into that today, so I'm going to skip that for now. Right here is tap tempo. So this is if you have a tempo in mind and you're not sure what it is, you can tap it out just by tapping your mouse, and then it'll adjust. You tap 4 times, like if I'm thinking like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's gonna be really fast. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 106 BPM. It'll adjust the BPM based on the amount of space in between your taps. And right here is obviously where our BPM is set. So we can also type this. We can type this into whatever BPM we want, or we can click and drag it up or down. So that's handy too. So these two buttons right here these are more for live performance and mixing. If you use Ableton to DJ, you can slow down a track or speed it up incrementally by using these buttons. Right here's the time signature button. So if you're writing, you can write in a different time signature other than 4/4. I don't know many producers that write in anything else other than 4/4, but it's great to go and try to experiment doing that. So, and right here is our metronome. Our metronome will sound like this. And that will keep us on beat if we're playing something live, or if we are trying to record a vocalist and they need to be kept on beat when there's a part with no drums in it. That's what we use the metronome for. The metronome has a drop-down menu where you can select the count in for recording. So the count in means when you hit record, before it starts recording, it'll tap out 1 bar. So that means 4 beats, like 1, 2, 3, 4, record. Or you could do it 2 bars, 4 bars, or you could just have it set to none. So whenever you hit record is when it starts recording. These are a couple of different sounds they have. So you can select a couple of different sounds if you don't really like the classic Ableton metronome sound. And then right here is the rhythm. So this is don't be confused by the rhythm as changing the BPM. This is going to tap the instead of having quarter notes, because it's tapping on every bar. We can set it to maybe 1/8. That high pitched click is going to be the indicator of the start of every bar. So you can tell as it crosses each line right there, it'll play the higher pitched one. That doesn't change the BPM of our song. It just changes the tempo at which the metronome is playing. So if you maybe want to play something faster, a little bit faster, but you have the song at more of a spaced out tempo, maybe at halftime or something, this would be helpful to use. And right here is just our count in, just the same as right here. Right here is our MIDI follow, or our playhead follow button right here. So if you've got a project and you're zoomed in, and let's say we hit play right here, it means the arrangement view will follow the playhead. If we turn that off, it'll just keep going, and we have to follow it manually. I don't particularly like having it on because usually when I hit play on something, I'm looking at something else, and when it just automatically jumps and takes my view away from whatever I'm looking at, it's frustrating. But like I said, some people like it. I know some guys who have it on all the time. Next is right here. This is wherever our playhead is. If you're looking at where the playhead is, you can see that jumps to bar 9 and jumps to bar 10. If we zoom in, we get a little bit closer increments. Click over here. These are the beat 3 of bar 14. That's where our playhead is. So something to I mean, it's not really necessary. You can probably just see it right there on the arrangement view, but some people like to know where it is. Right here, pretty standard: play, stop, record. you can key map all of these, and we'll get to key mapping in a second. Right here is the MIDI arrangement overdub button. So this is where if you're writing in MIDI notes, you can or if you have a MIDI clip and you want to play other notes in that same MIDI clip, you just click this button on, and it won't erase the notes that you've already played. Right here is the automation arm button. This is how you can record automation manually rather than having the entire clip be recorded over. This is handy if you wanted to have more of a human-like filtering. If you wanted to bring in something that like a filter that comes in not so linearly, like drawing the automation manually, but having it come in using more of a human feel. That's what we want to use it for. Right here is the re-enable automation button, and you'll probably see this when you're adjusting something that you've already automated. Say that we had recorded in our cutoff, so we filtered in a synth into the one part of our song, and then we decided later that maybe the cutoff point's too high, and we try to go do it inside of the plugin. It's going to disable the automation, and this button right here will turn red, and you'll want to click that and then adjust the endpoint of that automation in your automation lane. Right here is the new button, capture. So I want to demonstrate this for a minute. This will, if you're just jamming, you're just like playing around, like playing some notes, like, let's see, right here, I'm going to turn this on. Okay, let's say I like that. I can go up here and click that, and it will capture it for me. So, especially if you're playing along on your keyboard and to your song, and you're like, oh, I really like how that was. You don't have to go back and try to figure it out. You already played it. Just hit the capture button, and it'll be right there. Okay, next is our loop function. So we're gonna go over here. You see this bar up here? This is our loop section, and you could kind of see how big it is. But this will tell us exactly where our loop is starting, and this will tell us how big it is. So if we move our loop to bar 17, it tells us it starts at bar 17. And this right here will tell us how big it is, so we can come up here and drag it, and maybe make it 20 bars. That it'll tell us. If we wanted to make it even shorter and get like really small increments, we could do that. You could see the increments right there, but you could, like, just like with the playhead marker right here, we can kind of just tell where it is just by seeing it. But if you wanted to get really precise, it's right there. And then right here is our loop button. This will turn the loop on and off. So if you look, I'll make it really small so we don't have to wait. This is our loop right here. It's just one bar. And it's just playing over and over and over again. If we wanted to get out of the loop, we could just click that button, and then we'll go out. Or if we didn't want to go up there and click it, we could press Command L, and that will loop it. And then new to Ableton 10, Command L will also disable the loop. All right. So lastly, up here we have our draw mode. So this is for if you wanted to draw in MIDI notes or automation. You can also arm this button by pressing the B key. This is handy if you're more hands-on in that respect, and you really like to draw, like click and draw with your mouse. I personally don't like doing that, but a lot of people do. So if that's the way you like to do it, that's where it is. And right here is our computer keyboard button. You saw me hit this a little bit earlier. This is what allows our computer keyboard, like the keyboard with all of our letters in front of it, to be like a piano keyboard. So clicking that will make that possible. And right here is our key mapping and MIDI mapping buttons. So key mapping is we can get there by pressing Command K, and we'll turn all of these buttons orange. And anything that's orange can be key mapped. You notice up here I have this marked as, I have this already key mapped. So whenever I press this, the key right next to the left of 1, it solos my my audio track. Now you could do that with virtually any key. I like to do this with record. I like to key map Command R, or just pressing R to the record button, just pressing R right there. You can see all of our key mappings are right here. I can then I can just, when I press R, it will just automatically record. That's really, really handy, especially if you have to record a bunch of takes and you have to go. It's, you know, saving time is always good in when you're making music. So coming up here, clicking record gets daunting after a while. It gets to be a lot easier when you just have to press R. So, and MIDI mapping is the same thing. If you're using a controller surface where you want to maybe control some of your plugin parameters, but with an actual tool, you can go up there and MIDI map by pressing Command M, and MIDI mapping something to your your push or your MIDI keyboard if it has some control surfaces on it. You can MIDI map it all from right there. So that's about it, guys. That's basically a tour around Ableton about what all the buttons are on the front end are doing and where everything is. We're going to get into more and more detail in the coming videos. I'll see you guys there.